Hey everybody! Welcome. So I'm super stoked to be here on with you guys tonight, talking about self-talk. Hey girl, hey. Oh, Javier, hello. Brady, what's up? So welcome. I'm gonna give everyone kind of a few moments to get here. Hey. Oh, Teresa, what's up? What's up, Jamie? I'm super honored that you guys are joining me this evening, sort of joining this conversation about self-talk. This is an interesting thing to talk about. Hey, Cynthia. Hey, Pumpkin. I'm gonna try. Hey, Brady. I'm gonna try to Maria, hi. I'm gonna try to keep making sure I acknowledge people that have joined us. But it's interesting to talk about this idea of self-talk in the sense that we all have it, right? It's this internal dialogue that happens to be conscious and self-conscious. When they match each other and they sort of either combat or work together. Hey, Walter. And what's so interesting is it can be negative and it can be positive. And so we have to be able to be conscious about when that twist, when that shift happens. And honestly, the best way I can describe it is sort of that internal narrative, right? Is that narrative of talking, hey Kelvin, the internal narrative of whether I'm good enough, whether I'm not good enough, whether I am good, and really kind of breaking down the barriers of also that binary of good and bad. And so really curious to reach out to you guys for a moment is what are some of the negative self-talks that come up for you? Feel free to drop them in that line down there. And if not, no worries, we'll keep going on. But I think it's important to ask yourself those personal questions in the sense that if you don't ask yourself those intuitive questions, you're never gonna know how to combat it, how to shift it. But it's acknowledging that it's happening, and then you can actually change it. So yeah, if nobody has anything, I can always offer a personal experience, and I'll have a couple of those tonight, so feel free to say, hey, yeah, ask, or tell me yours. Hey, Ben, how are you? So yeah, a personal self-talk that often comes into my mind, especially working in the fitness industry, is sort of I'm overweight, I'm fat, I'm not attractive enough, and it's knowing when that's happening, and that's the shift that gets to occur, right? It's saying, okay, cool, my right brain, left brain, I'm not a psychologist, is saying, hey, you're fat, you've got to lose weight. When the other positive self-talk is saying, hey, you're just right, you're fine the way you are, you're perfect. To use a term that my mother would use, you're perfect the way God made you. So yeah, it's knowing that it's happening, and that's a shift. So one of the questions that I got actually was, how do you combat negative self-talk? Oh, sending big hugs and kisses to you as well, Ben. How do you combat self-talk? And honestly, it starts with you. It's recognizing, becoming aware that your mind is talking this shit. And as soon as you're aware of those stories, then you have the opportunity to push the gas pedal in the direction that you want them to go. You can continue moving them in the direction of shit talking yourself and saying, yeah, I'm fat, yeah, I'm this, yeah, I'm that. Or make the shift and say, okay, that doesn't define me. And ask yourself, what do you really want to be thinking? Now, let's be real. This is not something that sort of happens overnight, right? So interesting question, Teresa, do you use self-affirmations? And I'll actually get to that in a few moments. Super awesome question. It kind of comes with the coaching aspect too, which I'll dive into. But then areas to look at to also combat this is practicing gratitude, practicing meditation, engaging in physical or even mental exercise. So I have this woodblock game that actually Javier, who was on here a moment ago, he actually gave to me. And you can use Sudoku. Something takes your mind out of the immediate negative self-talk and puts you in a different headspace. And then I mentioned a moment ago, it's a myth that sort of this negative self-talk immediately disappears, right? It truly becomes this massive energy shift that you make a choice. And you have to truly believe in your power too, right? If you start to just believe, well, it's happening. It's like Bridesmaids, right? When she's walking across and she's in her wedding gown, she's like, Oh, it's happening. I'm shitting in the streets. Oh, she's shitting in the streets. Like, yeah, you can just acknowledge that it's happening and then make the shift. Now, maybe it's a horrible example because she was shitting in the streets. So that's just a fact. That's what's happening. But when it comes to like your negative self-talk, it's like you're making that choice to learn to distinguish what an unhelpful story that's long overdue, that's quite possibly and frankly not even true. It may have been factual in its base at some level, but you have the power to change those things. So yeah, any questions starting like how to combat that? Like my ways that I use the most are just honestly recognizing it and recognizing that I have the power to make that change. Meditation, deep breathing, like mother of God. Like I'll be sitting in my car and be like, oh, I just had a cookie from Eatzi's. If you don't know what Eatzi's is, it's like this incredible deli here in Dallas. And I'm like, oh, should I have had that? And then I just go on this rabbit hole of like my subconscious talking all this shit about me. So does anybody have anything that they do to help combat their negative self-talk? Or what are some of their positive self-talk? If you have that, like feel free to just shoot it out there. But yeah. Oh, hey Jeff, welcome. So yeah, another question was, how do I stay so positive and motivated when things get tough and you feel like giving up? And that's like this, right, that insurmountable question that you're like, gosh, if I only had the key, right? I would love to tell you that it's like Galinda, I can float in like a bubble and be like, poof, and it's gone. But in reality, like the big secret in my mind and in my deepest heart of hearts of staying motivated, staying positive about the things that you truly want and towards your goals is staying consistent. So you engage in consistent actions towards your goals and then you're really present to the progress that you're making and that your mind, like your conscious and your subconscious, I use my guilt as my biggest motivation. Interesting. Oh my gosh, we could totally dive into that guilt part of that motivation. Mother of God, I love that. Let's talk. Let's actually dive deeper into that. But when you really actually acknowledge all the progress that you're making and the consistent action, your self-talk immediately goes into, I've accomplished this. Oh, wonderful. I'm on the flip side of whatever piece or any ingredient to your success that you're working on. Rather than, oh, I didn't get that done, or I haven't gotten that done, or I'm not worth enough, or I'm not ready for this. It's always the not. It's like the ready. It's like that always starts to come up. But some of the benefits, I mean, goodness. What's the benefit of positive self-talk? Everything. Like improved moods, being happy, joy, happiness, and always makes me think of Reese Witherspoon in Legally Blonde, which is like, happy people just don't kill their husbands. So that's what I love the most. It's so hard not to get caught up in the caught up in the firefight of the negative. Yeah, so Walter, what I would ask you here, in the sense of what a beautiful segue into what coaching is, but what I would ask you right now is like, what are you getting out of staying in that firefight of the negativity? Like that self-talk's gonna be there. Yeah, it's negative, it's positive. It's all happy neck, back, Skittles and snacks. It's always gonna be there, right? But it's making the conscious choice in the shift and giving yourself the power to make that shift. It's gonna win if you keep letting it win. But taking those opportunities, the meditation, the breathing, the getting your mind into this different headspace, it's allowing that to happen. That's gonna be a true shift for you. But there's something that you're getting out of that firefight. Like you use such like luscious language there. I'm using that word luscious. For those of you who are with me this weekend, I feel like that is, the word of the week is luscious. It's like that luscious firefight. Oh, hey Chris. That you're getting out of sticking around in there. So yeah, Walter, ask yourself that question tonight before you go to bed. Like, what am I getting out of living in that negative zone? And if the answer is nothing, then let's talk more. Yeah. Any questions around that? What's up, Kimber? And you might be asking to yourself, like, okay, great. So I notice it's happening, and then I just wallow in it and have my Nutter Butter or my oatmeal cream pie, and I sit and watch a romantic comedy in the living room alone, drinking whiskey. All of those things could be true, and what if you took yourself out of the situation? It was like, great, Ask yourself, is this true? Is it factual? If it's not, make a different declaration. Pros and cons of, ask me in a different way, Floral Poppy. Pros and cons of, wait, that's not the answer? No, Kimber, it's not. But you know what is? Is holiday movies with Kristen Chenoweth. So I'm looking for that pros and cons clarification, Florals Poppy, if you have that there. But yeah, but while we're waiting for that, like, I kind of brought up asking questions, right? The whole, what are you getting out of staying in that firefight, Walter? And what I would acknowledge with you is that, yes, you're getting something out of it, but that is part of what coaching is. Like, I'm getting certified to be a life coach here, and part of the certification really dives into asking those powerful questions, right? Like, that's what we do, it's a reflection to you. So I had a question actually, like, what is coaching? And coaching, like, to be very specific in its simplest form, is partnering with clients in a thought-provoking and creative process that inspires them to maximize their personal and professional potential. Like, who wouldn't want to maximize their potential, right? Is it good for you or not? Pros and cons. Pros and cons of negative self-talk, Floral Poppy. I know I'm asking some clarifying questions here. Love that. Thinking logically has been so beneficial for me. Separate emotions. Yeah, I mean, goodness, if any of you know me personally, like, I'm a Gemini. I'm like, literally, if this was a ball of emotions, like, poof, there I am. Pros and cons there, Floral Poppy. Yes, as the pros and cons of negative self-talk. I mean, ask yourself, when you have negative self-talk, is there a pro for you there? And if the answer is yes, I would encourage you to dive a little bit deeper and ask yourself, what is that pro? That's a wild way to look at it, and I am open to looking deeper into that with you. And then you can begin to maximize your own potential, right? That's what, like, coaching is, that co-creative process, sort of like dive it back in. But Walter, it's a bad habit getting nothing out of it. Cool, so if you're getting nothing out of it, if you shift in the moment, actually, I give this great example earlier in the combating. So let's say, what is one of your negative self-talks, Walter? Let's just dive into it. If you're wondering, this backdrop is my pretend Costa Rica, where I'm moving to and whenever I want. And my background music is Kylie Minogue, if you're curious. Yeah, Walter, we'll get back to you. I'll kind of like rejoin once you like let me know like one of your little negative self-talks here. But sort of going back to what coaching is, but I see that this is empowering, this forward-thinking, this commitment-focused environment that I get to co-create with you, working on what you really want. Not just in your life, but in your world. Like, think about relationship, think about your career, think about your family, think about your relationship to yourself, all those kinds of things to maximize the potential there. Oh, Walter, great, like you didn't do something good enough. Great, consider that you did it perfectly. That's just a wild like shift. Like if you, let's say I baked banana bread, super trivial example, which I do bake banana bread and it is quite nice. Let's say you bake it and you're like, oh shit, I didn't do that good enough. Consider it was good enough. And that might be a huge shift for you, like right now in this moment, that might be like, wait, what? But that's exactly that sensation that I want you to bring up for yourself. Like, wait, what? And sit with that for a second. Sit with how that feels. Now, let's say it's a little bit more grand, right? You mess up a report at work. I don't sit at the desk to work anymore, gratefully. But let's say you do that, right? And you mess it up. And you mess it up because it's a fact, right? Like X, Y, and Z was not correct in the document. Cool. So you're like, oh, I didn't do it good enough. Well, I would consider that you did it fine. There were just some factual errors that now you can clarify. That now you can go back and you can change, right? But the fact that you didn't do it good enough is more of a tool of negative self-talk coming in and not letting you actually learn from the experience. Versus saying, okay, great, that just is, and now I get to go back and make that shift. Does that help, Walter? I mean, there's a lot we can dive in with that feeling good enough too. This is an awesome segue too, Walter, to talk about like what kind of coaching do I do. But mostly my training is on ontology. Oh, awesome, Walter. Yeah, and feel free to DM me more questions there. I'd be happy to help. But you think of what the kind of coaching that I do is like I'm getting trained in this ontological way, which is this study of being, right? Being around your actions, being around your environment, your goals, your setbacks, all of those things. And what I love about the beauty of coaching is it's all future focused. So like my niche will really be on working with people on the precipice of a big change in their life. Something that's really scary and kind of taking that through the lens of joy. Being joyful for the change, joyful for that whatever big event that's happened. So to give you a little bit of background or context around like why I started coaching and why I wanted to be coached is that I was in this place of complacency with my life, and I knew that my life's purpose was a little bit larger than just fitness. Oh, interesting, Walter. Awesome, yeah. Now your mind is like wildly open. We can always talk more about that too. But I knew there was more to my life's purpose than just fitness. And so I was like, how can I do what I want to be doing in a different way? I was using fitness as an amazing vehicle to create all these things, but now coaching is letting me use this on like a one-on-one basis or like a small group basis or even like a big group basis. Using in a different way that's not physical, that's more mental. And making those shifts, discover more about who they are from the lens of power and joy. So ontological coaching is where I'm at with the power of being and working with you and co-creating this environment to move you forward in your relationship, your career, your goals, all of those things. Okay, question, Kimberly. How can you shift negative self-talk when it's based off other people's actions? Example, they don't think I'm good enough. Am I being too annoying? What went wrong in this relationship? So let me just read that again. How can you shift negative self-talk when it's based off other people's actions? Example, they don't think I'm good enough. Am I being too annoying? What went wrong with this relationship? Well, my initial reaction from like friend to friend versus coach is you can't control other people's actions. So if they're gonna say and speak those words, you can internalize them, but then it becomes your own negative self-talk. So instead of saying they don't think I'm good enough, you're internalizing that then as I'm not good enough. And so when you do that, then that's the shift you need to recognize, or other people in general, yes. It's acknowledging that how they're feeling in this space and how they react and what words they verbalize, those are completely out of your control. Except what you can control are your actions in response. So if they say I'm not good enough, I'm too annoying, then you internalize that and say, I'm too annoying, I'm not good enough. I would encourage you to say either I am good enough or I am good enough. And or ask yourself, is this true? And if it's not true, then be okay. I know it sounds like there's this magic trick, right? But the magic trick really is you acknowledging and shifting. It's so easy to get bogged down in it, right? Especially with trivial things. That's like the worst. It's half the time it's not even like these big gigantic things. It's just small petty things. Like, I'm not good enough. Okay, great. Well, consider you are. Any other examples anybody want to throw out there? Self-worth over everything. In so many ways, yes. You cannot let another person put value on you. That's why I think the example that I actually used earlier, or had that written down. I said, immediately making a shift in your language, right? So I'm not worth anything to I'm priceless. I mean, how awesome is that? Then it puts you in the power of your thoughts and your being. Yeah? So one last question. What's the difference between life coaching and therapy? Does anybody have anything? You tell me. I'm open, I'm willing, I'm ready. Serve it to me. Nothing? I'm just kidding. No worries. So let's talk about that. So we kind of described what coaching is, very future focused, surrounding commitments, how you're being around something. And the main 2 points I'll put in here are, it's future focused, and the client is always the expert. So like, I'm not the expert in you, you're the expert in you. So it takes ownership in that co-creating relationship that we have. That's what's so exciting, right? That's like the magic. That's the igniting the fireworks, right? And then therapy is working through like that past trauma and how it sort of affects your present moment. And so like in coaching, we might address the past and see where some things might lie or some things might land. But in coaching, we really want to stay out of that and move forward. Because therapy is living through the past trauma and how it affects the present. So consider that along your way of finding a coach in that. Hope that makes sense for everybody. I'm not downplaying therapy here, by the way. Therapy is fucking awesome. I was in therapy for years. I recently was in therapy. I'm not currently, but I encourage everyone to have therapy at some point in their life. And at the same time, like there's so much value in coaching too. In fact, it's a huge industry that's actually booming in the moment. But also like consider that it doesn't have to be one specific thing, right? But we always like to think, okay, great, my career, my relationship, my home life, myself, all of those kinds of things. So I would encourage you to access what coaching is, future focus, access what therapy is, know what the difference is, and then reach out to a coach. Pick me, here we are. Let's work together. I think that would be an incredible opportunity for all of us. Shoot me a DM with any more questions that you have. But yeah, circle back to that self-talk, man. A lot of it is awareness. And a lot of that takes time, right? It's saying in the moment, making a shift. You can hear it when it comes up. Or a great tool to use is if you start thinking something, say it out loud. Even if you're by yourself, say you're cooking dinner and you're like, oh God, I shouldn't have that cookie because I'm gonna feel fat afterwards. Say it out loud. I shouldn't have that cookie because I'm gonna feel fat afterwards. And then be like, ew. Like, how'd that feel? How'd that land? How'd that sit? Sit with things. We start to pile through stuff. Just sit with it for a second. Yeah? So, combating self-talk, meditation, getting your brain to be different, physical exercise, saying things out loud, all those things can work. But it comes to the acknowledgement, right? I always ask you, right? I'm like, please agree with me. The acknowledgement of noticing it first. Thanks, Jamie. But it's subconscious and conscious, so feel free to say it out loud. Even if you're with people. So let's talk about this for a second. So it's actually a sign of great intelligence to talk to yourself. Did you know that? It's a sign of great intelligence. Say that out loud. It's a sign of great intelligence to talk to yourself. So we're normalized talking to ourselves. We're normalizing talking to ourselves. Yes, Catherine, yes. So we're normalizing talking to ourselves. Then when you say it out loud, then you can have that visceral reaction. You're like, you hear it and you're like, yikes, how kind was that? Yeah? So it's about the narrative you start to tell yourself in your mind. And it's gonna come and go, it's gonna ebb and flow. Sometimes it's silent, sometimes it's rampant. Especially when you're, Walter, deep-seated in those negative sensations about an actual occurrence versus just like an everyday activity. So sit with it, acknowledge it, and make the decision to change. I'm giving you your power back. Do you feel it? I'm giving you the power back. I'm exercising my joy. I'm sending it straight to you. Do you guys have any questions? Like, I'm gonna be doing this once every 2 weeks. Let's see here. So November 23rd is gonna be my next one. I talked to myself, Jamie, crazy but helpful for sure, right? It's like, honestly, I'm just gonna keep saying it's a sign of intelligence. Like, dude, let's rock it out. So November 23rd, same time, 7:30, Monday night. They're gonna be all Monday evenings. We've had long days, we've had a long effing year. That one's gonna be on gratitude and meditation. So write on your calendars for the 23rd of November, 7:30 p.m., gratitude and meditation. Then December 7th, it's gonna be on active listening. Notice how I stopped. So active listening really is a very present activity. So we're gonna be focusing on that on December 7th. Then December 21st, right before Christmas, I'm gonna talk about resolutions and values. Let's open up that can of worms because I'll just tell you now, I don't really believe in resolutions. That's a lie. I have believed in them before. I no longer utilize them as this like measurable tool. Because to me, it's like I'll save that. That's your little nugget, right? Your little nugget for December 21st, right before you stuff yourself with the prime rib for Christmas, donuts. And you have that champagne on New Year's Eve because Lord only knows what all of us are going to be doing on New Year's Eve. But anyway, any more questions? Anything you want to ask? You can always DM me too. I'd be happy to engage off this live feed. Yes, Kimber, I can't wait either. And if you've enjoyed tonight, please feel free to share this with your family and friends. I want this to be a co-creative process too. Like, I learn from you, you learn from me, and let's do it together. Yeah? So I'll stay on about 3 more minutes. Ask any questions. Yeah, Walter, like, a lot of it is generating the power from within. You're acknowledging that you have the power to make the change. The access to the change becomes simpler. It's less impactful to stay in that negative and explore that negative has lots of areas, but so does the positive. Yeah? If you haven't listened to Kylie Minogue's new CD, also who has CDs anymore? Her new album is unbelievable. So just think of all the and Carrie Underwood's new Christmas album just came out today. Yeah. If you're into coaching, hit me up. I want to bring joy back to everybody in a co-creative process. I'm also addicted to these mints. Love. I'm going to talk about another personal example. Oh my gosh, Teresa! You talked about the mantra. Oh my God, how could I forget? That is so key, so crucial. Because sometimes a mantra or like an affirmation, I think that's actually what you asked. You asked about the affirmation. Here's the thing about affirmations, is that if you don't believe it, it won't work. So I encourage you to choose something that you know will work. So let's talk, this is actually gold. So thank you so much for Teresa for offering that. Consider that your affirmation is, I am joy, which I am, by the way. But if that's your affirmation, and then you say it and you don't believe it, that's never going to be a great affirmation for you because it doesn't speak to who you are. So change words. I am, it's a very trivial example, but I am love and joy. Start changing and shifting words. I am love and joy, or I am love, and then be like, oh, how does that sit? Or I am joyful noise. Kind of start shifting and adding and subtracting words to where you believe it. Now that's where I'll kind of introduce the word mantra. Mantras can be used in so many ways. Just to give you a personal example of one of my mantras is, I have it written down on my board actually. It's, I am deserving of tending to my own garden. So what I struggle with a lot of times is taking time for myself. And it wasn't even so much selfish time. It was more the opportunity to do things that I enjoy because I enjoyed them, not because I thought I enjoyed them. So what I'll offer to you is I actually found out that I really like to sit on the couch and watch Netflix. I really enjoy doing that. So when I talked to myself and said my mantra is that I'm deserving of tending to my own garden, I decided that when I tend to my own garden that I will have no judgment surrounding the activities that I choose. So I encourage that if you're going to use an affirmation, number one, work with it. Make a shift. Make sure that you believe it. And when you have that mantra, it's a little bit more declarative. Yeah? Just food for thought. Kimber, we're the same person. I know. That's why I'm like, girl, 2021, we're going to be roommates. Hey. But yeah, this has been incredible, you guys. I'm so grateful that you all joined me tonight. Keep telling your friends and family about all of this. We're gonna keep moving this all to the end of the year, and if it takes off, know that I'm gonna also put this on my YouTube channel, so you can always come back and visit all of this. But yes, so November 9th, that's today, self-talk. November 23rd, we've got gratitude meditation. December 7th is active listening, and we've got December 21st, resolutions and value. I'm so appreciative of everybody who joined me tonight. DM me with any of your questions. DM me any referrals that you guys have. Like if you know of anyone looking for a coach, like send them my way. I'm happy to help in every way possible. Yeah, have a phenomenal Monday evening and recognize we are all on the precipice of a huge shift in our lives. Have a great night. Mwah.